Okay, everybody ready? All right. My name is Brian Wheeler. I'm Director of Communications for the City of Charlottesville. I'm going to introduce our speakers and let you know that we will take questions afterwards. We've got two releases that have been sent out on behalf of the city today and also the governor. Speaking today in this order will be the Charlottesville Police Chief, Rochelle Brackney, the Virginia State Police Superintendent, Colonel Gary Settle, University of Virginia's Associate VP for Safety and Security, Gloria Graham, Albemarle County's Police Chief, Ron Lance, the Virginia Department of Emergency Management State Coordinator, Jeff Stern, and the City of Charlottesville Fire Chief, Andrew Baxter. And we're joined by many of our other partners who have been part of this planning effort. So also joining us today is the new UVA Police Chief, Tommy Sutton, the City of Charlottesville Commonwealth's Attorney, Joseph Platania, Albemarle County's Commonwealth's Attorney, Robert Tracy, the Albemarle County Department of Fire and Rescue Chief, Dan Eggleston, Albemarle County Deputy County Executive, Doug Walker, and from the Virginia National Guard, it's Director of Joint Staff, Brigadier General James Ring, and Director of Joint Operations, Colonel Todd Hubbard. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mike Murphy.
Thank you, Brian. I want to start by saying that I need to express thanks to the partners that are here today for their collaboration, communication, and the partnership, the resources that they're bringing to the table in our shared community here in Charlottesville and Albemarle County. We've been working in earnest for over 6 months now, but really since last year's events to make sure that we're implementing best practices, that we have a single incident action plan that is unified, and that we have the communication systems that are necessary in order to interact effectively this coming weekend. I want to acknowledge the tremendous impact that last year's events had on our community, not just that weekend, but the feelings that it has raised about many years of inequity in our community, and that we are a community that's still healing, and that we hope that we have a safe weekend so that that healing can continue. I want to acknowledge this weekend that there are significant restrictions in place that also impact the community. And we have talked extensively about them, whether they be transportation or facility closures or transportation changes. Throughout all of this, though, the only acceptable outcome is that we ensure public safety this weekend. And for that reason, today we will be releasing to you all that I have signed this afternoon a declaration of local emergency, and it'll be available at the end of the conference. I'm going to turn it over now to Chief Brackney.
Good afternoon. As you know, we have had a very extensive and robust planning opportunities since last year's events, understanding that there were gaps identified in how we may plan and how that we communicate with each other. I am confident to say that with all of our partners, those gaps have been filled in and backfilled as well. What you can expect to see and what you can expect to engage is a very significant law enforcement presence in our community, and that presence is here as a support to our citizens as well as a deterrent to anyone who would want to come into the community and exercise their First Amendment rights in a way that would violate someone else's First Amendment rights. We have a lot of partners that are coming here understanding that the goal and a successful outcome for us is that there is no violence in our community, that people are welcome into the community, people are invited into the community, and they're here and should be here as part of the community's voice as we move towards a one unity, one Charlottesville commitment. Our law enforcement professionals have gone through extensive training. They've gone through extensive planning and extensive communication practices so that we can perform to excellence. As we move into the operational periods that will start on Friday at about 6 p.m. through Monday morning, know that our law enforcement professionals are here to serve you. They are here to protect you, or they are here to engage you in a very positive way so that the experiences and those persons that are here in the community are ones that have a successful outcome in which we control that narrative. As we continue to move forward in the planning process, welcome Superintendent Settles here to add his additional remarks and the support that the Virginia State Police and all of our partners have given us throughout this entire process.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that, and thank you for your leadership. It's hard to believe it's been a year ago that we had the tragic events here in Charlottesville regarding civil unrest and violence. And it's unfortunate that we're here again this year planning for potential violence and potential civil unrest again. But there's some good that can come out of this. And we're committed as Virginia State Police with our other partners to continue to support this endeavor this year at a high level. I will tell you that for many months now there's been a robust planning going on by all the stakeholders that you see standing here today. And out of that has come a comprehensive and a strategic incident action plan that will provide security and safety to all the citizens of Charlottesville. I'm confident of that. I will tell you that it's been a tremendous collaboration that I've not seen in my over 30 years, and all these folks up here need to be commended for their efforts with regards to that collaboration. We're bringing a lot of resources, the Virginia State Police, to the city of Charlottesville, and the Chief said it so elegantly. You'll see a lot of presence, and there's a reason for that. There's a number of state police personnel that will be here, probably over 700 that has been trained and ready to be assigned to this assignment. So that's a pretty robust footprint in addition to our partners that you see up here today. I will tell you, too, that, again, we're confident in the plan that we have. And I speak from everyone up here. We all are wishing for a peaceful event this weekend, folks to exercise their First Amendment. Nothing would excite us any better than this to be non-eventful and folks to go home and it be a peaceful weekend for all. I will tell you, again, because of the hard work here, whether folks live here or they do business here or be traveling through as a visitor, it's our goal to make sure that the citizens of Charlottesville and those who visit here are safe. I will tell you also, it's very clear that the state police is fully prepared to act on any insightful violence, any acts of violence, or any violations of law. There are a number of events and ceremonies planned around Charlottesville. Those events and the organizers and the people that are participating in those events deserve the right to have a peaceful event. So we are going to make sure that that happens. They should be able to have that event without any incident at all. So our presence, along with our partners, will be here. Chief Brackney was very clear, and I just want to reiterate that as well, that we were very firm in addressing violence, any insightful violence, and any other illegal acts that might be a violation of law. So we'll be very much engaged with that. I will tell you, too, we couldn't have done this without the citizens of Charlottesville and the community in itself, and there was a number of meetings. There were a lot of presentations, a lot of discussions, a lot of suggestions that came from the community itself that we took and absorbed that information and considered it when we put together the incident action plan. That is critical. I would urge the citizens of Charlottesville and anybody else who is going to be visiting here is to continue to be vigilant. You can help deter some of these acts that might take place. And again, we hope that's not the case. So we're in partnership with you, and again, we cannot do what we do without the citizens of Charlottesville. And I would tell you as well, I want to personally thank all of the partners that are standing up here today for their commitment to making this making this incident action plan as comprehensive and as strategic, again, as I've ever seen. So we're confident and we're looking forward to an uneventful event, but you will see a strong police presence. So I thank you for being here, and I thank our partners and everyone else who is engaged. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Gloria Graham from the University of Virginia. I just want to say that all of the plans that have been made, we have been an integral partner in. We are extremely thankful for the opportunity to work with our colleagues in the city, the county, the state, and our national agencies that are here to support us. Every single plan and every decision that we are making at the University of Virginia is focused on safety. Space, or it's putting in safety and security protocols. Safety is the #1 priority in all of those plans, and we will continue to do that throughout this operational period. We're doing everything possible to make sure that this weekend is marked not with violence, but with reflection and with renewal and with hope. We don't expect to get instant grace for things that folks think that didn't go well in times past, but what we ask is that you join us in moving forward and reflecting on where we've been, but also looking at where we want to be as a community. We want this to be the best place for people to live, to learn, to work, and to be part of this community. At the University of Virginia, we have our medical center is heavily engaged in this plan. We think of things from not in a public safety standpoint, not only of what you might think in terms of first responders out on the scene, but also we are the level 1 trauma center in this region. And so we have extensive resources that we have dedicated to support this plan from the standpoint of medical services. And those are both routine medical services for all of the people in these communities and the surrounding region that will need standard health care throughout this time frame, as well as any kind of emergency medical situations that may arise. I just want to close with the fact that I cannot thank this team enough. It is one of the most professional teams I have ever been part of. This planning process has been extensive, it's been thoughtful, and to leave you again with the fact that all of our thoughts have been on community safety when we were planning. So I'm going to turn it over to Chief Lance.
Good afternoon. I'm Chief Ron Lance, Albemarle County Police Department, and I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak today. Kind of what I'm going to speak about is the plans that we've made for Albemarle County, plus being a part of the unified front that we've had the last several months. We've been deeply involved in the planning as a unified group for the region, but in addition to that, as a police chief for Albemarle County, which is a large jurisdiction, I've also been planning for responses in the county. As such, I'm having officers work extended shifts during the weekend. I'm actually having officers that will be staged in various parts of the county that can respond quickly, not only to incidents in the county, but be able to assist our colleagues at UVA, Charlottesville, and Virginia State Police. One of the things I've noticed, and it's been said up here several times already, so I'll be brief, is a collaboration in the region has been phenomenal. And for those of you who had an opportunity to see all the different agencies respond to the community and have the open dialogue, I think was a very, very positive step. And as Colonel Settle said, we got some ideas and some suggestions from that community. So how is this going to impact Albemarle County? You're going to see an increased presence, just like everybody up here has said. In Albemarle County, you will see more officers than you normally see because I'm holding officers over and have canceled all leave. So residents can expect to see that. They can expect to see officers at various places in the county, to include parks, parking lots, large parking lots, things like that. One of the other things that's going to affect our residents is the 2 county office buildings will be affected by this. So McIntyre being downtown and 5th Street, where my headquarters is, parking is going to be restricted. There will be enhanced security measures put in place there. And for citizens that need to come to 5th Street, they'll still have the opportunity to conduct business as usual. We'll have officers in place that will be able to work with them and give them any service they need, whether it be make a report or any of the daily business that we conduct at 5th Street location. They'll still be able to come in and do that. So I would like to close by saying, as I've mentioned already, I think we've done a phenomenal job of working together as a community this year. I will have commanders in seats throughout the EOC that'll be sharing information real time, and the communication's key during these events, that we all talk and share information. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Jeff Stern. That's Jeffstern. I'm the state coordinator at the Virginia Department of Emergency Management. Governor Northam, effective 3 o'clock today, has proactively declared that a state of emergency exists for the Commonwealth of Virginia in order to ensure that all the authorities, agencies, personnel, and resources of the Commonwealth of Virginia can be brought to bear in support of preparations for this weekend. We are treating this as a statewide event, both in support of the city and county here, as well as Fairfax County and the jurisdictions in Northern Virginia and our partners across the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. for the events on Saturday and Sunday. By brief explanation, the governor's declaration of emergency empowers the mobilization of all state resources to include his role as Commander-in-Chief of the Virginia National Guard in activating them, and they're represented here by General Ring. The Guard, under the governor's orders, is activating military police and troops who are specially trained to support law enforcement, and they will operate under the supervision of Colonel Settle and the Virginia State Police personnel within the Unified Command structure. We are also activating under the governor's authorities the Virginia Emergency Support Team. That is the team that consists of personnel from over 40 state agencies to provide coordination and logistics and information sharing in support of all local governments. We will be at a enhanced activation level, what we call condition yellow, effective Friday, and enhancing our personnel and our situational awareness unit to track events across the state and to coordinate with the incident command team here in Charlottesville on Saturday and the incident command teams in Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C. on Sunday. The Department of Emergency Management, my agency, has been providing training and exercise support for the last several months and planning. We are providing a state incident management team that provides expert first responder personnel that are trained for complex incident management, again, to support the Unified Command members. We've provided our radio communications team to ensure that the responders have interoperable communications. And our State Department of Planning and Budget has set aside $2 million in funding for the contingencies for this. I want to emphasize that under this state of emergency, law enforcement is the lead, and we will be supporting their Unified Command efforts. With that, I'll now turn it over to Chief Andrew Baxter of the City of Charlottesville Fire Department.
Thank you, Dr. Stern. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew Baxter. I'm the Fire Chief for the City of Charlottesville, and I'd like to start by thanking all of our partners that have come to the table, both local partners, regional, and at the state level. We could not think about successfully trying to plan for and manage an event of this scale and the type of risks that we're trying to manage as a locality of 47,000 people. We couldn't do that. So we are dependent entirely on the collaboration and cooperation and professionalism of all the people in the agencies represented standing up here with me this afternoon. A couple of points I'd like to emphasize is how flexible our plan is to be able to respond to a wide range of hazards that occur or may occur in the city, at the University of Virginia, or in Albemarle County, and that's critical. This is not just focused on downtown Charlottesville. The other point I'd like to make is while this is a primarily law enforcement centric event that we're preparing for, I want the community to understand that we've spent considerable time and energy, and our partners from around the state are providing us with considerable resources so that we can both support our law enforcement partners with fire and EMS services, but also provide those services to our community like we do every day. So with that, I'll turn things back over to Brian Wheeler.
And I want to thank the media for your assistance getting this information out to the public. That's been really important. I want to do a little housekeeping on some of the announcements the city has made over the past couple weeks. But I also want to go into detail about the prohibited objects list for the downtown security area. Law enforcement will be manning the entries to the downtown security perimeter. The 2 entry points, which may not have been included on the printed version of the release you have, but will be on the online version, the 2 entry points will be at First Street South and Water Street, and at Second Street Southeast and Water Street. So those will be the 2 entry points. By order of the city manager of the city of Charlottesville, the following items are prohibited within that downtown security area. And it's a long list, so be patient with me, but we want to get this on the record. BB guns, pellet guns, air rifles or pistols, paintball guns, pellet guns, nunchucks, tasers, stun guns, heavy gauge metal chains, lengths of lumber or wood, poles, cans or containers, glass bottles, axes, axe handles, hatchets, ice picks, acidic or caustic materials, hazardous or flammable or combustible liquids, skateboards, swords, knives, daggers, razor blades or other sharp items, metal pipes, pepper or bear spray, mace, aerosol sprays, catapults, wrist rockets, bats, sticks, clubs, drones, that applies to media drones as well, explosives, fireworks, open fire or open flames, and any other item considered an implement of riot. So any person in possession of one of these prohibited items will be not denied entry into the downtown security area, and violations of these restrictions may result in criminal penalties. We want you to know that law enforcement will also be enforcing State Code 18.2-422, which prohibits individuals over the age of 16 from wearing any mask, hood, or other device whereby a substantial portion of the face is hidden or covered as to conceal the identity of the wearer to be or appear in any public place. So the housekeeping, I want to focus on a couple things. Some announcements we made previously. The Charlottesville City Market has been canceled for this Saturday. That said, some of the vendors are going to participate in an alternative event that's not sponsored by the city, but it'll be a farmer's market at the Ix Art Park. Fridays After 5 has been canceled. Again, that's not a city event, but the folks at the Sprint Pavilion have decided to cancel this week's Friday After 5. City parks. We want to clarify that it's only our staffed facilities in the Charlottesville Parks and Recreation Department that will be closed throughout the weekend. So if people want to go to Riverview Park, that's absolutely fine. And other parks that you can just walk into. But just know that the facilities will not be staffed, and therefore they will be closed. We're going to share a web link in a future press release, not in what you're getting today, but we're going to share a link that will allow citizens to share media with law enforcement. So these could be images, they could be videos. That link will allow you to share that information with the Charlottesville Police Department. One of the things we heard last year was that the community wanted government to take seriously threats and information that they observed or came across. And I want you to know that we have been doing that. So as information's been provided to us, and one person came to City Council and shared information, we've shared that information directly with our intelligence folks. This URL will, again, just be another tool that can be used by our law enforcement to follow up on things that might be a concern or might be criminal activity. There are a number of transit changes because the downtown transit station is closing and we're moving that sort of operation over to Avon Street. That impacts, many of our transit routes, and we would refer the public to that lengthy list that's available on the Charlottesville website. On other downtown parking options, we do want to encourage people to use the Water Street parking garage. That will be available throughout the weekend, as will the surface lots nearby. The Market Street parking garage will not be available. starting at 6 p.m. Friday. The Market Street Garage will be limited to permit holders only. Finally, we're going to be activating an information telephone line, which is 434-979, and the word info, I-N-F-O. That line will be for the community members that have non-emergency questions about what's happening this weekend or how they can get a non-emergency question answered. That'll be staffed by volunteers, and that's done through the Emergency Operations Center that we have here locally. If there's an emergency, we want people to call 911. You've heard about all the law enforcement that are going to be present. The public should know they can go to any of these people who are here to help protect us, and all of them will be in communications with the Emergency Operations Center and the Incident Command Post and those places where that information needs to be shared. So we're going to take a few of your questions now, and I will try to start answering them, but if you ask something that's certainly outside of my area of expertise, I'm going to call upon my friends here to help out. Mr. Graff.
I think from the community standpoint, it looks like the question is this all that's being done, is this out of an abundance of caution, or are there specific threats that you all know that people should be aware of to some extent?
Sure, good question. So we are closely monitoring the intelligence that's available to us about who might be coming or who's going elsewhere, right? I think we would be irresponsible if we didn't have a plan like the one you're seeing. And we've said from the beginning that the focus of this single, unified, and flexible plan is that it's not dependent or contingent upon any group that we know is coming or not coming, any permit that we've granted or not granted, or any court case outcome. We've said this is the plan we think needs to protect public safety. The number one thing in there is making sure vehicles and pedestrians are kept separate. So the emphasis of the downtown security area is road closures and parking restrictions, and that's to ensure that people can assemble, express themselves, and be in a safe environment. So that's really the focus.
Did you say all pedestrian access is limited to the mall except for 2 entry points?
Yes.
Will they be large entry points? In anticipation of a lot of people coming downtown, I mean, is it going to be like a long line to get into downtown, or have you worked through that yet?
Yeah, I think they'll be sized appropriately so that we can ensure people are able to move through there. Yep.
And will there be any ease of entry for people who can show proof of residency or business on the mall?
So that they will go through the same entry points, yes.
This sounds very similar to what was done in Richmond, maybe a month after August of last year. What lessons did you guys learn from that incident that worked or did not work to implement this plan? Can you talk about that?
So I want to speak to that.
So when you look at best practices and how you control access or entry points is really what they are. They're access points in which you can then engage in whatever the activities that you would do. So part of the lessons learned were not only from Richmond, but it was also reflecting on our events of last year as well to see what planning and preparation could we implement this year that could assist us in creating a safer environment and increase the probabilities of a successful outcome. So there's learning that occurs not just from your events, but it is from other events. And you've heard us say in previous encounters that the state police have also sent personnel to Seattle. We've been in conversations with Portland. We've been in conversations with all the other agencies who've experienced these large demonstrations, including our partners in the Metropolitan Police Department of D.C., and how we've engaged in large-scale demonstrations throughout the Commonwealth as well as throughout the nation.
What kind of security, I guess, sweep will everybody be going through? If someone wants to come into downtown, what are they going to be subjected to?
So that's also another good question. In terms of rumor control, we will not be, none of your rights are suspended just because it's August 10th, 11th, and 12th in the city of Charlottesville. So you still have the right to not have an unlawful search and seizure or warrantless search and seizure unless there's probability it exists that that crime is being committed. We, of course, will be heavily monitoring the prohibited items. It should be relatively easy to see if someone is bringing in a axe or a stake or a tiki torch or those other items that are there. Those items that are concealed that we may not necessarily have the same type of access to, if they are discovered, then you will be subjected to the laws that govern those prohibited items and other things as well. But we will not be asking you to open up your bags and searching you unless there is some reason to do that. We are going to engage you first through conversation, recognizing that these are the prohibited items, and it is in your best interest not to bring those into this location.
Are handguns on that list? I can't recall.
You don't recall because it is not on that list. We are still have to honor your Second Amendment. Managers have said previously they took this to legislature and to attempt to get those kind of items prohibited, much like other cities in the Commonwealth, that did not make it out of committee.
Does not being able to prohibit firearms make control for you all this weekend more difficult?
So it has its challenges. Obviously, if we went to legislature to help us control that, it's not a very healthy mix when you have large crowds and weapons in those communities, particularly now as we face a lot of controversy on does the open carry have an intent to intimidate certain populations without having to brandish them as well. So it is a balance and a struggle that we're attempting to balance your Second Amendment rights with also those populations who feel targeted and vulnerable when someone comes in. The success story is the consent decrees that have been able to be entered into so that those persons who may be carrying those firearms or those weapons cannot dress as a militia group. So that does give us a little bit more leverage if we encounter persons who have both of those items in place and intact.
Do you guys have any idea how much this will cost, just with the staffing that you plan for right now?
I'm going to have to defer to city manager for that.
Yeah, we don't have that number right now, but it's certainly something we have to calculate, and we'll keep track of all those costs. Yep.
I think you also mentioned that the phone line or the tip sharing was something that you heard residents wanted. So how much of this plan was a direct result of talking with residents in the area?
Well, I can tell you that through our community meetings, we've made a number of adjustments to reflect concerns the community has. One example is the Friendship Court neighborhood, where there's a parking area on the streets around Friendship Court. They ask that that parking be restricted over the weekend. So that's a change that we made to accommodate that community. So we've made many adjustments like that. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback from the community and ideas about how to best do this. I think I would just echo what other speakers have said, though, that this is really best practices time. We've tried to model this on the National Incident Management System and how to organize a multi-jurisdictional project of this magnitude. And this is one of the top 5 largest deployments of law enforcement in the state's history. So it's a big undertaking, and we think we're doing the best practices this year about how to manage that.
So can you give me like an estimate of how many law enforcement personnel we might see? Like how many National Guard troops are being activated? Is there like a ballpark figure?
I'm sure there is. If we had each chief talk about that number, what I heard Superintendent Settle say was over 700 Virginia State Police. I believe the National Guard has about 300 on standby. And then certainly the entire Charlottesville Police Department, the entire Albemarle County Police Department, and then many of our neighbors who are helping out and contributing to that. So that's got to be up over 1,000 total. Chief?
But I want to clarify that. Not all of that looks as though they're out on patrol, because although you may be a police officer, you may have some support roles around intelligence, logistics, and planning, IT, et cetera. So we're attempting to balance the safety and security and not present as a militarized state. So there is going to be a law enforcement presence, but that also does mean that they have other duties, roles, and responsibilities, and not necessarily in uniform.
Are you planning on having people spread out with riot gear, plain clothes, or will everybody be in their regular uniform?
So we will not reveal our plans and operations, but you can imagine that if officers are going to be out in the field, that they're going to be in their uniforms with protective gear. And that protective gear allows them to operate in large crowds, where there may also be the need to have extractions or arrests made. Our attempt, it will be the softer uniforms first with the ability for quick response if we need those.
Will there be enhanced patrols in some of the vulnerable communities in Charlottesville?
Absolutely. Great question. And again, this is all based on the feedback of last year's events as well as every one of our community meetings. Throughout the community process, we've talked to those and identified those populations who would be considered vulnerable based on ideologies, based on religious beliefs, based on even their sexual orientation, or even low wealth communities. We also understand that our black and brown communities are often targeted initially for intimidation. We've identified patrols for those areas, particularly with quick response teams as well. Not only have we done that based on the community's feedback, we've identified a liaison who they have immediate access with to get their concerns. So that is, again, part of what the learning process was, to get good feedback and possible potential gaps in our planning and process. So yes.
One more question. Anybody? Yes.
If any of you had recent contact with Jason Kessler, do you have any information about whether he plans to do anything in Charlottesville regardless of what happens in D.C.?
Yeah, I don't think we have anything to say about that.
Brian, can you also clarify the restrictions for media? You mentioned tripod restrictions and some other things. We bring cameras in, camera bags. Would any of that be limited?
Camera bags are fine. It's the long poles and tripods that are the primary concern. Yep. Speaking of media, we will have the staging area at Charlottesville High School. That's where we will do briefings like this for the media. And over this weekend, wherever you are as a reporter, whether it's the city, county, or UVA, there's one number you need to keep in mind, and that's the Joint Information Center number that's on that media release today. So that's how you will access us, whether it's city, county, or UVA, or the state police. We will all be accessible via that Joint Information Center. We will give you updates as often as we can throughout the weekend and let you know when we're having briefing opportunities. We're not going to share a specific schedule in advance, but we will keep you posted on that. If you are not on our email list, assuming you're here, you are on that list, but if you're watching this and you're not on our email list, you can go to charlottesville.org/media, and you can sign up to get our updates throughout this weekend. We're also putting up on the wall a map for a visual of the downtown security perimeter and the 2 entry point locations. Again, thank you very much for coming today, and the 979 info number will not be answered until 7 a.m. Friday morning. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday is when that line will be active. The JIC number is active right now, except it's on silence in my pocket. Great. Thank you very much.
Taking it away.